Hi, I'm Senator Phil Boyle and welcome to The Big Picture. Today we're going to discuss Black History Month. The month of February has been named Black History Month for the number of years now. And let's look back at the history of Black History Month, which celebrates African American culture, and a nice piece done by the History Channel.
African American history dates back to the colonial period, when Africans were brought to the colonies as slaves. Yet Black history was largely ignored by historians and the general public until the 20th century. At the forefront of the push to bring Black history into public consciousness was a scholar and son of former slaves, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Born in Virginia in 1875, Carter Woodson escaped poverty through education, ultimately receiving a doctorate from Harvard University in 1912. Throughout his studies, Woodson had noticed that the role of African Americans in American history was either misrepresented or missing altogether from the history books. Determined to encourage Black studies and tell the stories of his people, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life in 1915. A year later, he began publishing the Journal of Negro History, now known as the Journal of African American History. Page by page, African Americans wrote themselves back into the history books. Encouraged by a swell of support, Woodson organized the first annual Negro History Week in 1926 for the second week of February, to coincide with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. The civil rights movement of the 1960s reflected the growing pride and cultural identity among the Black community. By the nation's bicentennial in 1976, African Americans were embracing their heritage and reminding America that Black was beautiful. 26 years after Carter Woodson's death, Negro History Week became Black History Month as part of the bicentennial celebration. Dr. Carter Woodson left an indelible mark. His work ensured the long and rich histories of African Americans would never be forgotten. Black History Month continues his legacy. We honor the people and their achievements in celebration of the African American experience.
Welcome back. When I think about Black History Month, obviously, as we enter the month of February, I usually think about some of the Black leaders that made a difference in our history and in my personal life. Look at leaders and heroes that you think of, and two great Black leaders that I've always looked up to and admired their legacy. One was Nelson Mandela, obviously the late president of South Africa, who just passed away in this past year. And I can say that I had the honor of meeting Nelson Mandela. I didn't wash my hands for a couple weeks after that. It was actually before he became president. It was soon after he got out of jail. I was working as a congressional staff person and played a role in bringing him over to address the Joint Session of Congress. It was a monumental moment in my life and harbinger of things to come when he got to address Congress and then went on to become the president of the country that he saved from whatever history might have brought without his tremendous leadership and peaceful notions. Another great leader is Jackie Robinson. He was a little before my time, but growing up, my father, a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, was in awe of Jackie Robinson. Always talked about the tough life he had going into the Major League Baseball as the first African American, and the way he presented himself as a gentleman, and really led to the integration of Major League sports and played a huge role in American history. Well, this year, on February 27th, at the Bayshore Library, we're going to honor 12 honorees for Black History Month, Black leaders in our community, and we're fortunate enough to have 3 of them with us this evening. Kimberly is first, Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and James Cornigans and Dr. Tracy Hudson. We're here with the 3 of you, 3 of our honorees, and we thank you for coming here and for allowing us to honor you. And we'll get a little preview about Black History Month. I'm sure the video from that evening will have some other stories, but I'd like to talk a little bit about what you do in the community and your leadership in not only the Black community, but overall on Long Island. Kimberly, your parents migrated from Haiti, and obviously, as many immigrants come to live the American dream. Tell us how you pursue your American dream.
Well, I look up to people leaders to kind of push me, and I just look at their models and what others have paved the way for me, and being from Brooklyn and moving to Long Island with not knowing any family here, and just kind of finding my way and navigating within the Black community and reaching out to leaders, people who gave me an opportunity in my field, like Legislator Gregory when I first graduated from Stony Brook University. So just that sense, just kind of looking to mentors to kind of open doors for me and actually direct me in the direction. I don't think I've reached the American dream yet, but I think I'm on the great path.
I think you are, and Kimberly and I have known each other for a number of years. I myself was a staff person before I was into an elect position. Kimberly has been an aide to County Legislator Dwayne Gregory, who's ascended to the head of the Suffolk County Legislature now, and Congressman Steve Israel. So Kimberly has been a leader as an aide, and a lot of times the politician gets all the glory, but the aide does all the work. And but now, Kimberly, and we'll talk a little more about it, you're rising yourself to a community leader, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
James, you have a very strong work ethic. I read your bio. You're a Newsday delivery guy and worked at the local hamburger joint. And you don't just start at the top like you are now, but you had a work ethic to get where you are. Can you describe that a little?
You've said most of it. Working just taught me not to be afraid of work. Growing up, single parent home, I had to strive for excellence. Had to. Otherwise, you just don't survive. And it made me want to read books and listen to tapes of people who have done things in their lives. So I've done those things. I appreciate that. And it just makes me realize that there's so many people that are not as blessed as I, and it makes me want to help those people. And I see how people from overseas have done so much to help themselves. So I can't sit back. I've got to move forward too.
Well, thank you for everything you do. I truly appreciate you being
Very
here.
kind.
And Dr. Hudson, education has played a huge role in your life.
Absolutely.
At the beginning, you have a resume that's it's too long to mention on the show because we'll be here all night. But obviously you're a leader in the education field now. Describe how education has impacted you in your career.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the invitation. It's definitely my honor to be here on this panel. Education is the key to success, and I have to say I have very, very humble beginnings. My education actually started in the Wyandanch School District, K through 6, and then I moved to the Amityville School District, 7 through 9.
Wow.
And then I moved to the Central Islip School District, 9 through 12. I always share that experience with my students so they will see that I represent some of the characteristics that they have. Transient. I lived in districts where we had a high level of poverty. Single mom. But yet I was able to take advantage of education to the point where I am now. So I always share with children that education is the key to success. No matter what your background is, education is the great equalizer. And I always constantly try to share that information with my students that I come in contact with, whether it's in school or in the community.
Great. Well, thank you very much for sharing that insight.
Yeah.
And my mother actually is a Central Islip High School graduate too. And my father was from East Islip. She was Central Islip. They were arch rivals. So that was like the Montagues and the Capitals back then. Yeah. So, Kimberly, you're new director of the Wyandanch Resource. What's the exact title?
Wyandanch Community Resource Center.
Okay, great. Tell me what you're doing over there now.
So basically, I started in August. And we deal with the human side of the current infrastructure that's going on in Wyandanch.
Right.
So we all know about the Wyandanch Rising Project, and it's going to be a beautiful development. So the Resource Center was implemented to kind of work with the human side.
Great.
So it's we're actually working with community leaders. So the Resource Center, our goal is to focus on partnership, and through that partnership, we actually formed a leadership roundtable. So we have leaders that are providing services in the community to kind of develop and identify what our assets deficits are and kind of figure out what the true gaps are. So that's just really what the Resource Center, and that's what we focus on. So we focus on partnership and building and moving the people of Wyandanch.
Great, that's wonderful. And as a state senator representing part of Wyandanch, I look forward to working with you on that.
Likewise.
You're right. There's millions and millions of dollars going to Wyandanch Rising, but it needs to help the community, not only the buildings, the infrastructure, but the people. And thank you for what you're doing. We look forward to working with on
Likewise.
it. Yeah. James, you're an educator for many years, and now you're writing booklets to help our youth. What if you had one piece of advice to give our kids? What would it be?
Wow, you want one.
I know.
Well, I wrote some things down
Okay.
here, but first you have to remember the Lord. You have to remember the Lord. It's very important. Decide what you want. Be able to give up something. Be willing to sacrifice something to get what you want. You have to believe in yourself. You have to make sure that you never let anyone's negative perception of you become your reality. And if you would, you're going to be the same person. I found this out through reading. You're going to be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for two things. One, the books that you read, and two, the people that you meet. So those are the things that I've learned. And, you'll get everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want.
That is
you
wonderful.
will be successful.
Great advice, great advice. And we see now with the advent of the Kindle, I've talked to educators and they say the kids are reading like they never have. They're reading books. They may not be the paper version, but they're doing a lot more reading, and that's great advice. And I'll definitely spread it out to my constituents as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
And Doctor, what bit of advice can you give our kids to stay on the path? You've educated a lot of them over the years, but what's the big piece of advice?
Well, I would say take advantage of many of the clubs and activities and programs that are offered either in the school or in the community. One of the things that I always tell our students or remind our students of is that when you apply to college, because I always tell my kids they're going to college, what's going to separate you and the other students that you're applying with, if you guys both have a 98 average, will be the other things that you're doing to complement your academics, such as the clubs, the community activities that you're involved with.
Right.
One of the programs that I truly believe has been a backbone here on Long Island is the Youth Enrichment Services Program.
Okay.
They are very much involved with, I call it the trifactor, the schools, the students, and the community. They have several programs that I know of because they work in my school. They have a wonderful after-school program. They have a mentoring program. They have a Saturday program at the YMCA. Just programs that our kids can get involved with, our parents can get involved with, and if most of the programs are free or at a very, very low cost. So I would say that our students and our families should really seek the various programs that are available in the community, because there are a plethora of community-based programs that are really beneficial to our children and to our families.
I couldn't agree with you more, Doctor. Other programs getting involved in, and youth enrichment services, they're unbelievable.
Absolutely.
My office is very busy. We did over 50 events last year, and youth enrichment services, every time I walk in there, there's the red shirts and
The red shirts. I call them my friends in red.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Remember, the big picture every third Friday at 9:30 a.m. and after the ceremony at Bayshore Library, I'm sure we're going to have some more highlights, and we'll get video, you guys, and we'll continue on a wonderful Black History Month. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you so very
us.
much. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you.